The Cincinnati Bengals selected Shemar Stewart in the first round of this year's NFL draft. And some people believe he can be Von Miller 2.0, while there are some other NFL executives saying he has potential to be a bust. Y'all know we're going to talk about it and break it all down right after this.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back into another episode of NFL Central, your number one spot for everything NFL. I'm your host, Ted Bobby. And if you tuned in with me today, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell. But let's talk about Shemar Stewart, man. Coming out of Texas A&M, definitely had one of the better combines that we like to look at and had an outstanding workout. But when it comes to the combine, we cannot forget what happened during the season for Texas A&M, to where he wasn't really productive for Texas A&M. And he only had about 2 sacks, only about 39 pressures and something like that. But he did lead the team. And there are some people that believe that this young fella has some traits to where he could be Von Miller 2.0. It's a tall task to live at. But we had some NFL executives come out and speak about this young player. Some were really on the side of him. Hey, give him an absolute chance, and he could probably thrive in his NFL. And there were some NFL executives that was like, nah, we good with him. He has the potential to be a bust. We even had one NFL executive speak to the Athletics, Mike Sando, and pretty much say that, hey, he's an epitome of a high-risk pick with bust potential. People are going to say Von Miller, but he doesn't make any plays, run fast, and there is no production. Then on the flip side, you had somebody that was really more on the opposite side of that discussion. Another NFL executive said it's not all about sack production. It is total pressures, pressure rate, and then physicality. It's their 3-cone, their 10-yard shuttle, broad jump, those things. The dude the Bengals took had very low sack numbers, but was back there all the time. Now, 2 things could be very well true. If you sit down and you watch Shemar Stewart, you look at him and you say, hey, Shemar Stewart, he's always in the damn backfield. He's always wreaking havoc and helping his other teammates make the plays. He's always where he needs to be to go out there and cause the quarterback to step up or flush him out of the pocket. Or when it comes to the run game, he's always on that edge, sealing up that edge to make sure that somebody else is able to bring the young player, bring the offensive player down. Now, that could be the issue. And another thing could be on the opposite side is that, hey, he's always in the vicinity of the football. He's always around the football. So maybe if we can help him and coach him up a little bit better, maybe he could get home. But see, that's where we have the problem, at least for me. I want the guy to not just get to the door, but into the door. I don't want the guy to go to Little Caesar's Pizza, order the pizza, and not bring the pizza home. I don't want the guy to make a deposit into the bank account and we come to find out that the check was bounced. The check was bounced. I don't want to be in those type of situations. I want the player that is going to be out there to answer the damn call when we come calling. To go out there and say, hey, it's 3rd and 10. We need this so we can get the ball back in Joey Burrow's hands. That's the player that we need. Now, I'm not saying that Shemar Stewart can't absolutely come out there and be a force, because I think that with the talent that he has, he will go out there and be productive in a way to where you're saying he's getting his pressures, he's getting in the backfield. But my question still lies, will he be able to get the quarterback on the floor? Will he be able to have those tackle for losses that change drives? Will he be able to have those game-changing moments to where, hey, the team is driving down the field, they need 5 more yards to get into field goal range to potentially win this game. And if you send them off on that 3rd down or that 2nd down while you're getting close to the field goal range, can he knock that opposing team out of field goal range by making the play? Not for others, but for himself. Because if he goes out there, if Shemar Stewart goes out there and make plays for himself, that's how you get the bag. But if Shemar Stewart goes out there and make the plays for the other, you hand him money away. Now, I understand the discussion about him being close to a Von Miller, maybe because they went to the same college. I don't know. But I do see some type of traits in this young player. You see the power, you see the strength, you see the speed, you see some good pass rush moves. But how can you get the quarterback on the ground? How can you get the running back on the ground? How can you get the wide receiver on the damn ground when they doing the screenplay? Can you sniff out those things? I believe this young player has good instincts. I'm not one of those ones that's going to count him out before he even plays an NFL snap, but it's definitely something you have to consider because the last 2 seasons of Von Miller's collegiate career, 27 and a half sacks, 40 tackles for loss. So if we're going to sit there and compare Shemar Stewart to Von Miller, don't go too fast with that discussion. I'm not ready to say this man is Von Miller 2.0. Does he have some really good traits? You absolutely love the traits. And I will consider how Shemar Stewart could be lined up opposite side of Trey Hendrickson. But the problem is that the Cincinnati Bengals is treating Trey Hendrickson like the stepchild. They don't want to pay him. They don't want to pay him. And I know Trey Hendrickson is up there in age. He's one of those guys, I believe it's like 31, 32 years old. He's seeking that last good contract so he can, secure the bag, which he should because he was the most productive player on the defensive line last year for the Cincinnati Bengals. But how do you go ahead and make sure that Trey Hendrickson is on the football field at the start of the season? You got to probably come up with some change. You probably got to come up with some money. But the problem is they just handed out money, and therefore they looked at Trey Hendrickson and said, we ain't got none. That's the problem. That's the problem. They looked at Trey Hendrickson and was like, look, we got to keep Joey B happy. We got to keep Joe Burrow happy. We got to pay this man his money. And rightfully so. You got to make sure Joe Burrow is good with his guys and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. But at some point, if you were smarter with your decisions, the Cincinnati Bengals, you probably wouldn't be in this position having to count out and give out these crazy contracts to your wide receivers. And then you forget about one of your premier pass rushers who is up there in age, but who's healthy and very well productive. And that would have been a good move. And then adding Shemar Stewart to that and saying, all right, Shemar Stewart, you could just funnel all the sacks to Trey Hendrickson. Or the opposite. Trey Hendrickson can finally funnel some of those sacks to Shemar Stewart to where the production now matches the athleticism, does now match the defensive traits of a Shemar Stewart. I'm not ready to go Von Miller 2.0. I do love the traits of the young guy. And I hope he excels, and I believe that he will. I think that there's just a few things he needs to touch up on. Maybe I'm not saying that you want him to absolutely dial it back, but you want him to be more strategic with the pass rush. You still want him to have a certain type of physicality going into or rushing the passer or defending the run or make a play. But you also want it to be controlled. If you get it more under control, I think Shemar Stewart will be able to make some plays. But the ball is not in my court. The ball is on his field. That's just what he going to have to do. But, hey, let me know how you guys feeling about that. Do you believe that Shemar Moore? Do you believe that Shemar Stewart is Von Miller 2.0? What would you consider that, and how close would you make that determination? And what does he have to do to get closer to being that Von Miller 2.0? Because I think the young man has a lot of good traits that you absolutely like with him as a pass rusher. But how do you ensure that the production now matches the athletic traits? Because we've seen it plenty of times. Big guys come in, 6'6", 260, monster. Not ready to knock them on down. And then they just end up bouncing around the NFL to different teams because they can't solidify themselves when it comes to production. So let me know. Let me know your thoughts and everything down below. Let's chop it up about this discussion right here. And before you get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell. Hit that bell, because me and Steve have been pushing out this work. But we appreciate y'all over here because we are the #1 spot for everything NFL. make sure you go ahead and tune in. And make sure you always love football. But that is it for me. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.